Alright, hello everybody, today I'm going to be going over the cooldown cannon spec for Rdruid. So what you're able to do with the new 4-piece is kind of turn yourself away from mastery, and then this kind of opens you up to a lot more options in your talent tree. So Tree of Life and Inner Peace both don't rely on your mastery to do heavy amounts of healing, whereas Cultivation and Germination do. So the whole idea of this spec is to kind of get away from mastery and do a lot of burst healing through different means, through Trank, through big wild growths and bigger rejuves in Incarn, having the Soul of the Forest legendary to do really large burst healing with Swiftmen and wild growths, and then having a lot of Swiftmens. So you essentially turn into a really big cooldown cannon. So that's the basis for the build. Soul of the Forest and Velens just for more cooldowns, Incarn and Inner Peace. So we'll get into some gameplay for this. So basically in Mythic Hydroton we know that the only points where people are really at risk of dying are at the draw-ins, so that's where we want to be focusing on our healing. Between the draw-ins, the unchecked rages, their damage is almost irrelevant, and most of the adds, the gladiator adds, you can kite out and they don't really do anything. So we're not looking at overall HPS in this encounter at all, just because it's very, it's almost irrelevant. Healing up these unchecked rages, you can see how quick that just get topped off, from paladins and Resto Shamans and Holy Priests. So, as a druid, am I worried about healing that? Not at all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a Swiftmend to buff my airflow, and that's really going to be the majority of my healing for that unchecked rage. So the idea with this spec is that for these draw-ins, I'm going to have a cooldown for every single one. So I'm going to be tranking this first draw-in, I'm going to be using Tree of Life for the second draw-in, and I'm going to be using Trank for the last draw-in. So we're also lining this up, so we've essentially got 2 cooldowns going off for every draw-in, except for the first one, because the first one there isn't as many stacks. So you'll see right now, kind of just gearing up for it. Should be flourishing. Yep, draw-ins coming, damage coming out, I'll be tranking. So big trank there, get a really good amount of healing, and I'm essentially able to solo heal that entire phase basically. So again, just going back to sustain here, there's not really much I need to be worrying about. Unchecked rages, there are better healers to heal that up, so I'm not too concerned about just padding out rejuves on everybody. Of course I'm going to do something, but there's really not too much concern. So, we really want to be just looking to gear up for this next draw in 30 seconds, and I think you'll see me use my tree form about 15 seconds before it happens. Let's see, I haven't actually rewatched this, but I think that was my plan going into this. So, yeah, so for this unchecked rage, I'm going to be tree forming, and I know that draw-in's coming in 10 seconds, tree form is 30 seconds, so it should be up for the draw-in. So all my rejuves that I'm going to be putting out now are going to be at 50% increased healing. And I want to essentially just make sure that everyone's topped, for majority of this draw-in. So the whole idea, again, with this spec is just cooldowns. So we can get into tree form. We have Soul of the Forest wild growths that are going to be hitting 8 targets. We can flourish that. We can do a whole bunch of things. We've got lots of healing going off whenever we Swiftmen from our airflows, and yeah, you can see that those frigid blows, not too dangerous. The boss does get a 25% physical damage buff, but really, the buff is almost, as long as he doesn't get like 2 or 3, you're usually fine on this boss. So, while my HPS is actually pretty low right now, I'll show you in logs later that during the times, the peaks of what I'm doing will actually be higher than what all the other healers are. And that's just because of how I'm actually able to play. My healing when these unchecked rages going out, I don't have any rejuves planned for anyone. I'm not going to be wasting mana on doing that. There's not really much point. So again, you can see that the last draw-in will be coming up in 20 seconds. I should be gearing up to that with another, hopefully I use Garnier. So Garnier, airflow, flourish just then, for no reason really, because there's not much damage coming out. But So this next drawing I should have Garnier and Trank, which again will be a very large amount of healing. So if I was running Germination, my healing would look a lot different. It'd be a lot more healing on the unchecked rages, and it would be a lot less healing during this phase here. You know, you can obviously spam out depending on how much mana you have, but you know, this spec you are able to play quite comfortably without things like Blessing Wisdom and multiple innovates and whatever. So it's quite a sustainable spec, and it's quite easy on your mana. So again, you know, you can see how much my healing's jumped up now then after that last trank, and that's just because of how this spec plays out. So if this was going to go any longer, I would have my tree farm up again for the next draw in, but we do kill the boss before that happens. So again, right now it's just sustaining, could be DPS in the boss, but the unchecked rages do hurt because it does have a damage buff, and this is just a Zerg. So that's the entire idea around this cooldown cannon spec. If we do take a look at the logs for this fight, so you can see that F-low, large amount of my healing, that's just from the 4-piece, and that's just because I am running Prosperity. I'm getting a lot of casts of Swift Mandoff. But if we have a look at the peaks of the healers, so you can see that, so this is essentially during the first draw-in that I'm peaking very high. This is because of Tranquility, and there's no other healing cooldowns going off. During the second draw-in, I am getting a rather large amount of healing. It's not the same as a Paladin Aura, obviously, but it is quite high. It's still up there with the Shaman and the Healing Tide Totem. And then for the last draw-in here, you can see the second Trank and the Garnier were pretty, you know, heavy on healing all throughout that phase. So, you know, the peaks for this spec are really high, which is essentially what you need for a boss like Hydrogen. The in-between damage, the sustained healing, you know, is not something a Resto Druid is that good at, or the way that it comes out where it's just big blows of healing is not something where Resto Druid, you know, excels at. So, you know, it's better off to be left to other healers. So the important thing about this spec is that it's not the highest throughput. You know, you can take Germination, you can take Cultivation. They are, you know, or Cultivation especially is a really large throughput cooldown, but you know, the spec does allow you to respond to incoming damage patterns very well, especially on a fight like Hydrogen. Anyway, I hope you learned something, and thanks for watching.